What's up guys? So today is Samsung versus Samsung Day. We have the new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra versus last year's Samsung S24 Ultra. Roll the intro. Now the S24 Ultra served me very well. I used it for nearly all of 2024 as my daily driver, and I also filmed 90% of my YouTube and social media content with this phone. Now the S25 looks to take its place, but is it better? That is the question. Or do we keep using our trusted S24 Ultra? Well, in this video, we're going to find out what the main differences are between these two smartphones, covering everything from the design, display, chipset, camera samples, gaming, benchmarks, and lots more. And by the end of this video, you should have a pretty good idea between these two smartphones. Now let's begin with the prices. And I'm just looking at the prices on Amazon for this. So the S25 Ultra starts from $1249 for the 12+256 variant. And there is a pre-launch offer. If you buy it now, you can get the 512 variant for the same base price of $1249. And the S24 Ultra is currently selling from $1249 for the base 12+256 variant. So they are currently the same price. S24 Ultra has not dropped down in price yet. Now let's talk design. So both phones are made with a titanium frame going all the way around. Now let me quickly mention the differences. Now the S25 Ultra has rounded corners versus flat corners in the S24 Ultra. Furthermore, the S25 Ultra has flat sides versus rounded sides in the S24 Ultra. So in the hands, the S24 Ultra actually feels a lot more comfortable to hold in the hands thanks to the rounded edges on the sides. But saying that, once you stick on a phone case, it's not really going to matter. Now, I've actually never used my S24 Ultra even a day without a case. So not too much of an issue for me. And the case I've been using with my S24 Ultra for nearly a year now is the Pitaka MagEZ Case 4. And even after a year's use, you can see the case still looks new, and so does the condition of my S24 Ultra. Aramid fiber, tough, durable case, nice protection, and the phone still feels nice and slim. And with the new S25 Ultra, I plan to use the new MagEZ Case 6 for the S25 Ultra. And I've got two colors here, Sunset and Moonrise. I'll quickly show you what they look like. So again, aramid fiber case, supports wireless charging, and I think I'm preferring the Moonrise color. So slips on nicely, as you can see. Gives you a bit of bumper protection for the camera lenses as well. And now holding this phone in my hands, the edges no longer feel sharp. Now back to the design, and we are taking a closer look at the camera bumps. And you can see the layout is exactly the same. So the cameras on the S25 Ultra have a black trim finish, as you guys can see. And the S24 Ultra has this rather nice chrome finish. And I think if you compare them, the chrome finish just looks much better. It just looks more premium to the eye. And on the other hand, the black trim gives an almost plastic look to it. And I'm not sure if that is the case. That could very well be a metal trim. But the finish, if we're talking about aesthetics, I think the S24 Ultra looks better there with the camera modules and the chrome trim. More details on the cameras and samples coming up later in the video. Furthermore, both phones have a nice matte finish and are not prone to fingerprints. And I have the S25 Ultra in titanium silver blue, and that's what they're calling this. And the S24 Ultra I have in titanium grey. Design-wise, overall, they are both super premium phones as expected. Titanium frame, Gorilla Glass armor front and back, and your super cameras to go with it. Now, let's talk displays. Both phones feature the same QHD Plus Dynamic AMOLED 2X displays. The S25 Ultra has a slightly bigger 6.9-inch screen versus 6.8-inch in the S24 Ultra. Both have the same resolution, 3120 by 1440. Both support 120Hz adaptive refresh and HDR10 Plus with 2600 nits of peak brightness and Gorilla Glass armor protection on top. So exactly the same screens, but dimensions do slightly differ. If we talk about the length first of all, the S25 Ultra is 162.8 millimeters in length versus 162.3 millimeters. The width of the S25 Ultra is 77.6 millimeters versus 79 millimeters. Now in terms of thickness, the S25 Ultra is 8.2mm versus 8.6mm. And weight-wise, the S25 Ultra weighs 218 grams versus 232 grams. So that means the S25 Ultra is slightly more narrow, slimmer and lighter than the S24 Ultra. Okay, now let's quickly compare the ports. At the bottom, we have S Pens in the same location. Then we have a loudspeaker on both, USB-C ports in the middle, a microphone hole, followed by a SIM card tray. And something new has happened. The S25 Ultra has its SIM tray hole on the opposite side. So that's nice to see. It means some people won't stick the SIM eject tool into their microphone holes, damaging the microphones. You can see on the S24 Ultra how close the microphone hole is to the SIM eject hole. It's actually too close. So in a low light situation or in the dark, or you're trying to change a SIM card, and if you don't look carefully, you might pierce your microphone. Now over here you can see volume rocker and power button in the exact same location. Up on top we have two more microphone holes, and we have the secondary speakers on the earpieces of both phones. And on the other side there is nothing. So exactly the same port layouts on both phones, apart from the SIM tray hole being fixed. And here is a quick side-by-side of the S Pens. You can see the button on the S25 Ultra's S Pen is slightly thicker, making the S Pen 1 or 2mm bigger. Now let's talk about battery capacity. Both phones have exactly the same 5000 mAh battery and the same 45 watt fast charging. And they both also support 15 watt wireless charging and 4.5 watt reverse wireless charging. So exactly the same battery and exactly the same charging speeds. So you can't really complain. 45 watt fast charging is a pretty decent and safe speed. But I do also need to mention neither phone comes with the actual chargers in the box. Now let's talk sounds. Both smartphones feature stereo speakers with one bottom firing speaker and one on the earpiece, and they both support Dolby Atmos sound. So let's do a very quick sound test. Now let's talk chipset performance. The S25 Ultra is powered by the latest Snapdragon 8 Elite, which is a 3nm octa-core clocked at up to 4.47 GHz and with Adreno 830 graphics. Now the S24 Ultra features the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, which is a 4nm octa-core clocked at 3.3 GHz and with Adreno 750 graphics. And if we compare the benchmark results, starting off with Geekbench, you can see the S25 Ultra has achieved single core score of 3166 versus single core score 2238, and a multi-core score of 10,076 versus 6,857. And here are the results for the Antutu benchmark test. The S25 Ultra achieves 2.28 million versus 1.8 million in the S24 Ultra. And here are the 3D mark results for the Steel Nomad Lite test. The S25 Ultra has achieved an overall score of 2,302 with an average frame rate of 17.05. And in comparison, the S24 Ultra has achieved an overall score of 1,427 with an average frame rate of 10.58. And I also had to run the Solar Bay benchmark test. And here are the results. The S25 Ultra achieves 10,639 with an average FPS of 40.45. And the S24 Ultra achieves with an average FPS of 27.67. So looking at the benchmarks, you can see what sort of performance boosts you are going to get from the Snapdragon Elite chipset. And after all of those back-to-back benchmarks, I know the phones would have reached peak temperatures, so let's quickly compare the temperatures. So you can see the S25 Ultra was at 55 degrees Celsius versus 52 degrees Celsius. And to give you an idea of how this phone ranks against the others, here is my top performing smartphone chart of 2025, where you can compare the specs and features of all the newly launched smartphones, and all the phones are ranked by Antutu benchmark scores, so higher the benchmark, faster the performance, and therefore higher the phone ranks. I've also added a new rating system out of 100, so you can see the best performers, but also exactly what I think of the phone. Now that being said, the S25 Ultra achieves position 5 on this chart with a benchmark score of 2.2 million. I've also given this phone an overall rating of 96 out of 100. Now you can view the full versions of all my charts online at chickstech.com and read them at your leisure and completely free of charge. Furthermore, both phones feature LPDDR5X RAM and UFS 4.0 storage, and I have the S25 Ultra in 12+256 and I have the S24 Ultra in 12+512 variant. Now both phones do support virtual RAM extension, and you can extend the RAM on both by up to 8 GB. Moving on, both of these phones do support dual SIM 5G and eSIM, and quickly mention, neither have microSD expansion slots. Now let's move on to the gaming performance. Alright, so time for some gaming, and first of all we're going to compare COD mobile graphics settings. So the S25 Ultra, first of all, you can see maximum graphics quality and maximum frame rate. Now the option for ultra frame rate is there. If I select it, it will drop the graphics down to medium. And the S24 Ultra is exactly the same. So maximum graphics with maximum frame rate. Option for Ultra will drop the graphics down to medium. So I'm going to play a game on each, starting off with S25 Ultra.
Tango down. Hard point identified. Objective. Lockdown. Hardpoint contested. Headshot. Hardpoint lost. Target down. Killer drone deployed. UAV online.
So now I'm going to boost the frame rate to Ultra, and we're going to see how it plays.
We're eliminated. Contact with enemy. Ooh, headshot. Killer drone on standby. Target down. We've taken the lead. Contact with enemy.
So that was the S25 Ultra. Now let's swap and test the gaming out on the S24 Ultra.
Losing C. We lost Bravo. Online. Predator missile inbound. UAV spotted. Lost the lead. Predator missile on standby. Counter UAV up. Losing B.
Alright, so we're moving on to the cameras. So both phones feature quad rear cameras, and they both have the same primary cameras. That's 200 megapixel Samsung ISO cell HP2 sensor. So Samsung have always used the same HP2 primary sensor in their Ultra series, starting from S23 Ultra, S24 Ultra, and now the S25 Ultra. The ultra-wide sensor has been upgraded in the S25 Ultra, at least in terms of megapixels. So the S25 Ultra has a 50 megapixel ultra-wide, and that is the Samsung ISO cell JN3 sensor, which has not been used before in any other phone. As far as I'm aware, this is a brand new ultra-wide by Samsung. Now in comparison, the S24 Ultra has a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and that is the Sony IMX564. Now both have exactly the same 50 megapixel telephoto and portrait sensor, and that is the Sony IMX854, and we also have the same 10 megapixel telephoto Sony IMX754 image sensor in both phones. So the only difference in the camera setup is the 50 megapixel ultra wide that you get in the S25 Ultra. Other than that, all the cameras are exactly the same. And on the front, we have exactly the same 12 megapixel Samsung S5K 3LU image sensors. So exactly the same selfie cameras on the front. Now we have more or less exactly the same camera sensors. There is an upgraded ultra wide in the S25 Ultra. Let's check out a few side-by-side camera samples and see the differences for ourselves. So first of all, 8K at 30 frames per second. 8K 30. Okay, so both shooting in 4K 60, one with HDR and the other one with HDR10. Okay, so while we're here, 3x zoom on both. So while shooting 4K 60, 5x zoom on both. 10x on both, trying to keep things steady. Okay, and I'm just going to jump to maximum zoom 20x on both, and that is while shooting 4K at 60 frames. Free-handed, no tripod at all. Alright, 4K 30 in both. One HDR and the other one HDR10 plus. $1080p 60 on both with HDR. $4K 60 again on both with HDR switched off. Maximum resolution front facing camera, 4K 60 on both. Here we go. So quick look at the DRMs. You can see both support Google Widevine Level 1 certifications, and both support Netflix HDR with spatial audio. And if we go into Netflix playback specifications, you can again see Widevine Level 1, so maximum res on Netflix Full HD. The hardware codecs are exactly the same, and you can see. So unfortunately, Dolby Vision is not a supported HDR format with this phone, but you do get HDR10. Now here is CPU Z, where you can check out the clock speeds. And you can see Adreno 830 versus Adreno 750. I will also show you the CPU details under ADAS 64. So you can see Snapdragon 8 Elite, Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. You've got the clock speeds, manufacturing process, and so on and so forth. And here are the results for the internal disk speeds. So the S25 Ultra achieved read speeds of 1335, and the S24 Ultra achieved a higher read speed of 1661 megabytes per second. And you can see the write speeds 572 versus 534 megabytes per second. Now comparing the software information, the S25 Ultra is running Android 15 with One UI 7 on top. And in comparison, the S24 Ultra is running Android 14 with One UI 6.1 on top. And One UI 7 is clean. It's really nice. I love these shortcuts, the convenience of use, how they arranged everything. It's different and it's better. Now you're getting 7 years of OS updates with both phones. So the S24 Ultra will also be updated soon to the same Android 15 with One UI 7 on top.
So there you have it, guys. That was my comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra versus the S24 Ultra. So it's no surprise that the S25 Ultra is indeed an incremental upgrade. And if you already own the S24 Ultra, I don't really see a reason for you to upgrade at this point in time. But if you have an older generation Samsung or Android phone, then upgrading might be quite beneficial. So let's break it down. S25 Ultra will give you a new feel with flat edges and curved corners. It's slightly smaller, slimmer and lighter. Screen is slightly bigger. Noticeable boost in performance with the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor. There is an upgraded 50 megapixel ultra-wide camera, the latest Android 15 with One UI 7 pre-installed, and a ton of new AI features. So apart from what I just mentioned, everything else is exactly the same as the S24 Ultra. Now, if you are a tech enthusiast like myself, you're probably going to want the best of the best. And then the S25 Ultra would be the clear-cut decision between the two. I hope this video has helped you see the main differences between these two smartphones. Any questions, you guys know what to do. Now, if you want to see more of my latest and greatest unbiased tech reviews, hit the like button, sub to the channel, and hit the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.